Welcome to the Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers and its monthly author showcase. I am your host, Peter Stockwell. Author S.L. Brown is visiting with us this month at the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television Studios. Sean and I met at the Kitsap Mall at the unique local bazaar and again at his book signing event at Barnes & Noble. Sean wrote an inspiring book about his random thoughts about the world. Welcome to our broadcast for the Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to be here.
Just a Thought is a unique book, a look into your mind. As you stated on your Amazon page, each of us is unique. Tell us about the germination of this fascinating book, because I really did enjoy it.
Well, I appreciate that you read it. It's really interesting for me. My book didn't start out as a book. In fact, I was actually, as a U.S. Navy man, I was stationed in Afghanistan back in 2010. I found I was saying the same things. I was kind of mentoring a couple people, and I started to notice I was saying the same things often. And so what I started doing was I started writing what I call Sean's Thoughts. And so it started off as just a random internet post, Sean's Thoughts, and they carried on over the course of a year. No one liked it, no one commented, no one said anything. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop. I got like 10 private messages from people saying they just logged on to...
Where's your next thought?
Yeah, they were saying they logged on just to see what I wrote. And it kind of humbled me a little bit, and it made me think, oh, well, maybe there is something in what I'm saying. It wasn't just a cat meme or something like that. After a couple years, I was getting all that conversation of, you need to put this in a book, you need to put this in a book. So it didn't start out as a book. It just started out as my random thoughts, as you said earlier, on the world. And people liked it.
And because you didn't hear back from them didn't mean they weren't listening or
Yes.
reading.
Yes.
It meant that they were enjoying what they were doing. Now, one of the other things I'd do as a random thought, I would like to introduce this young lady who's next to you.
I was wondering if you were going to do that.
Well, we are going to do that.
Okay. You'd like to introduce her.
And you are April Emerson.
Yes, I am.
And you are his collaborator.
Yes, I am, Peter.
Friend, mentor, well, mentor?
No,
No, just a collaborator. And you fit into this book because you've helped him coordinate it to make it work.
Yes. In fact, we met because Sean's a fitness instructor, and I teach at a local high school. When the end of the school year was coming around, I felt...
It really is okay if you mention it.
Oh, our high school?
South Kitsap.
South Kitsap High School Wolves.
Yes.
Go Wolves. So when Sean and I met at our fitness, at the gym where he teaches and I'm a member, one day we just started talking about his writing. It just happened to be a random conversation, and he said, well, you're an English teacher, and the thought kind of stewed a little bit with him. He didn't share this with me yet, but then one day he said, hey, you know what? I've been thinking about that. He shared that story that he just told you, and he said, would you help me do this? And I thought for a moment, and I thought, you know what, let's do this. Let's try it. And that's how it came to be.
And a star was born.
And a star was born.
Small star, but it was a small star.
Every star looked at a distance is small, but up close,
There you go.
not so small. You've enjoyed a varied life in your time as a military person.
Yes.
You just mentioned that you were in the Navy. April said you're a fitness instructor. And what's this acting that you did?
Well, I was an actor. After I moved back to California, I decided to think about things for a while. If it comes back to me, it keeps coming back, then I want to do it. Before I went in the military, the Air Force actually, when I was my first service, I actually started acting. 18 years old, flew off to the military. When I moved back to California back in 2005, the acting bug started coming up again. And so I took some classes, I got some headshots, and started my way into the, auditioning. And I got to do small parts. I mean, a couple commercials, and I was on a reenactment show once, which was kind of cool. And then I got into theater. I started to have a theatrical arts degree. Yeah, acting, it just came back to me. Yeah. But unfortunately, as I got going, the Uncle Sam sent me to Afghanistan, and that kind of killed the acting career. And now I'm writing
Well, let's hope
track.
the military doesn't pick you up again and send you off somewhere else to kill the books.
Yeah, I know.
Although that wouldn't, because that really will enhance what you would write about, because those experiences do become
Definitely.
books.
Definitely.
They really do. We do write what we know.
Yes, definitely.
So, well, Just a Thought's unique, definitely. And of course, as I said, you've enjoyed a varied life. Would you say that your audience can be influenced by what you're forging in these random thoughts of yours? Is that an intent of yours?
Someone always asks me, why should I read your book? And I typically tell them they shouldn't. You don't need to read my book. It's kind of counterproductive to me wanting to sell it. I know.
I think that's called reverse psychology.
Some people might call it that. My thoughts aren't right or wrong. They're just my opinion at the time. What I want people to do is think. Slow down. This book is not it's not available online. You can get it online, but it's a hard copy only, because I want people to actually stop, make a conscious decision to look at it and to read one passage or what have you, or multiple, and to think and talk. And that's what April and I have really found, that people are talking. And I get folks saying, "Oh yeah, me and my husband or me and my wife were just talking about this." But I'll get a private message on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and so inevitably what I want is people to just think, to do that much anymore. We do a lot of this, but it's not.
And human beings, from a psychological point of view, for the most part, are reactionary.
Yes.
They are not proactive. And so you're saying that your book should be one that's proactive for people to engage in conversation instead of reacting to what others are just simply saying.
Yes. Yeah. Grown. I didn't know that. When I started writing, like I said, I had no desire to be a writer. I didn't consider myself a writer. I just was sharing an opinion that wasn't laced in misinformation or anger or emotion. It's just, here's what I've noticed. And I think people are reading that and they're getting that message. And it's really refreshing for me, because, like I said, if you slow down, you find out that, the three of us have varied backgrounds, but there's a whole lot more in common.
Yes.
Sitting at this table, in common, and we can probably sit down and have a conversation.
Well, as you wrote this book, of course, your journey led you to it, but what challenges did you encounter while you were putting this thing together?
The biggest challenge was me. I am the biggest challenge, because I don't, like I know, like yourself, and I've got to meet a lot of great writers since I started this process just over a year ago. I don't consider myself a writer. I didn't consider myself an author. I write all the time. I talk all the time, but I didn't consider myself a writer. And I think there's a passage in there in August of 2014 where I declare that I'm going to put my book together. I'm going to publish my book. And there's a little caption, there's a little parentheses on the end of that says, "This has been done in 2017." 3 years later, just because I didn't necessarily think, A, that I'm a writer, B, that anybody outside my normal circle would want to hear what I had to say, and why would they, and see that it was worth that. It's worth it to me, but it's already my information, so I was the biggest hurdle, believing that I belong in the group, or thinking that I could. And so I met her, and she was like, "Yeah, you can do it, rah." She's a good cheerleader.
Yeah. Well, writing is a big change from my career as a middle school teacher over in Bremerton. What, when you wrote this in your life, was exposed by your writing?
That's a very good question. I'm very passionate about helping people slow down and being part of humanity. I'm a reclusive person by nature. I can sit me and myself and Candy Crush, and the April just reminded me by being here that I'm good with kids. I don't like kids. They're little tyrants to me, and ironically, I'm really good with kids. I reach them. They are really loving my book, and my message. And you can have skill, but there are things that you're called to do. I have religious friends who would say that you're calling. You have a call to do, and I can reach people from, I think the youngest kid I have right now reading my book is 10. And the oldest person I have is, last time I checked, was 80. So the range of things, I'm really good at being a bridge, but the kids were the surprise. That teenage, young adult was really the surprise, that somehow I talked to them well. I didn't realize that.
Well, that's good. That's good that you could formulate the idea that they're not bad people.
No.
I mean, we used to be kids ourselves.
I was a bad kid, though. I was a
Bad behaving or bad kids?
Bad
There's a
behaving.
big difference between behavior and
story.
personality.
Yes, yes.
Well, writing fiction for authors such as myself means that we develop characters. And we write about those characters, and they have their own lives and such. In writing your book, do you ever think of your thoughts as your characters?
No, I do not. And I just wrote a blog kind of similar to this. My thoughts, the people are the characters. You read my book, you're the character. We talk about, wrap it back to acting. We get a script as an actor. The writer's given us a script, but it's the actor that brings it to life. It's the actor that gives it whatever the words, the meaning of the words. With these thoughts, the person reading, it gives them meaning. When you read one, you have your life experiences that are going to bring it. But when one of April's kids read one, they've gotten 15 years of life. You've got at least 30, right? Years of life of experience. Yeah, I'm 35 is max. But so the person, that's who my character is. And when we talk, they bring a different life. April read this book. She had to read line by line. Me and her got to talk each one. And her experiences growing up changed she took them in a different direction than I was thinking at the time. And so those are the people reading would be my character.
Well, April, I'm going to pick on you for a little while
Okay.
because you are definitely a person who's played a role in the building of this book.
Okay.
And we got the idea that you got involved because you guys met at the fitness center, and he was talking about, I've got all these random thoughts, and you said, make a great book. So what did it mean to you to meet this guy and know that there was a book hiding in him?
Well, I'll make one correction.
All right.
It wasn't my suggestion for him to make a book. That actually came a lot earlier. He shared with me that people had told him that. But what I did recognize in just talking with him initially is I thought, sometimes when we meet someone, we don't see the depth until we do start to have the conversations that Sean was talking about. And so we would talk for a long time, and I thought, you know what, this person has something to say. And like he just said, he doesn't have this affinity to hang out with the young people. But as we're talking, I'm thinking, these are the types of things that I knew my students were struggling with. I knew I had questions about. And so to be able to help him put it in a form that we could share it with a variety of people, it was a little selfish because when I hear it, I think about my students or I think about my family, and I thought, wow, they need to hear this too. And
Well,
so
then-
that really is what drove me
And then
to say yes.
because of that, you actually have taken this book into the classroom.
I have.
You are using it with your students.
I
Tell us
have.
about that.
Actually, if I can just back up one step, I didn't initially think that what he was doing was going to go to my students, even though I saw it. I could see myself pulling out some of the things that we were talking about and using them as journal entries or, stimulus for writing. I really didn't think about bringing the book in until about a week after we published the book. Actually, it was a couple weeks because we had gotten the book on Mother's Day. You'll have to tell
Don't
that
you
story
love
at some
opening that
point.
box?
Mother's Day, yeah.
So of course, I get a few copies, and I give one to my sister and my mom and my dad, who live in Las Vegas. Never have met Sean, by the way, to this
My
day.
favorite.
To this day. And about a week after I sent it to my mom, I get this phone call from my mom, and she's crying. She said, "Your friend made me cry." And I said, okay, so I haven't lived in Las Vegas for years. And I said, well, I don't know which friend of mine in Las Vegas would make you cry, but I'm hoping that they didn't tell you something I had done when I was younger. So I was trying to keep that, keep everything pristine with Mom. She said, no, your friend Sean. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, I carry his book everywhere I go. And there are things in there that have made me think about stories in my life that she said I never shared with you kids, ever. And so that whole experience with her, so she and I talk every week now. We talk about the book, we talk about her stories, and we talk about things that I believe were prompted by this book, but may now have kind of moved away from some of the passages. But listening to her and knowing my experience going through passage by passage and seeing the realizations, kind of the revelations of myself, I thought, these kiddos, my kids, my students, need this. And so now this year, I'm actually piloting this book in my class for reluctant readers, because those kids are telling me, you're giving me books that don't speak to me. Not me specifically, but they're English teachers. Right. And I thought, you know what, let's give it a try. Because I saw that there were things that were making me think and making my mom think, and seeing him with students impromptu, like book signings and so on, I thought, let's try it. And so right now I'm piloting that with my reading seminar class as a supplementary reading to what they're studying. And the reactions that I'm getting and the stories that they're telling and the kind of the experiment in their thought, I think this, but I didn't know this, and this reminds me of, and all the connections that I wish I could get them to make with the literature. And Sean and I actually talked about this recently, that is the bridge to the literature. Mm-hmm. This isn't an isolated experience for them. They now know that happens in books, and now they can transfer that into what we as teachers think is, canonical literature, the literature that we're supposed to be doling out to them. So I really think that this book is going to be a powerful bridge for some of these kids, for a lot of them.
Do you go in the classroom?
I'm actually, I'm actually going to be going into the classroom in
about a week.
About a week.
Mm-hmm.
The kids have been eager to yell at me.
Mm-hmm.
Is what they've been itching to yell at me and to talk to me and just kind of go off the cuff a little bit. And that's probably it was humbling to me, because I was those kids. Mm-hmm. I've always been a smart kid. I've always been smart. But I had no drive and nothing. I know my direction was not that way. It was go over there somewhere and hang out. And so as April and I work with this book, and she talks to me about what she's doing with the class, she tells me what the kids are writing and what they're saying and the questions they're asking all of a sudden based off of her prompts, plus other things. It isn't just the book. I wouldn't take all that credit anyway, but I'm looking forward to actually going into a high school and talking to kids.
Good. Good. You've enjoyed the challenge of becoming better known for this creation of your book.
Yes.
How has marketing progressed? Marketing is the big deal here. That's what I found out. So how's marketing going?
Well, I am going to say marketing goes well for me because I don't do much of it. The young lady next to me, she does most of our marketing and the background work. But I will say one of my statements is I would like to say is I'm too stupid to know any better. So I ask everyone. Mm-hmm. Like I said, we met Simon at Unique Bazaar, Simon Kalkovickia, and he was talking to us about when he's going to do a signing, and we happened to be out there. Like I said, you came out, you were actually stopped by there, and I met you, and
and here we are.
Yes, yeah. We've been at this for a year, and April and I knew nothing. I mean, zero about publishing a book, about writing a book, about putting a book together. We had no idea about any of it, and we just talk.
Well, and you published your own book.
I did.
Okay. So what minefield obstacles did you have to learn about? Because you, as you said, same as me, you've come into this not knowing anything. And so, yes, you're going to come up against the obstacles.
Yes.
And it didn't blow anything up. You kept going. So tell us about your little adventure here.
I'll let April take on that one because she's done. I mean, it doesn't exist without her help. You tell them what.
Okay.
Well, tell us about getting it into bookstores and in various venues that you have been going to. I know how you got here.
Right.
We met Peter.
That's right. We've met
Yes.
Peter. So I think that one of the biggest obstacles, and I don't really see it as an obstacle, I think it's just that approach that Sean, that he mentioned, is because we don't know anything, we have to ask questions. And I think one of the things that we have to be cautious of, and we talk about this all the time, is we have to make sure that we don't pretend we know anything. Because the minute you present yourself as knowing how to do, you fail to make the connections with people that are doing the same thing. I think one of the best things that we did, not only meeting Simon and meeting you, but also connecting with the Northwest Independent Writers Association, NIWA.
NIWA, yeah.
And just connecting yourself with another group of folks that have a similar experience, have gone through some of the same, or overcome some of the obstacles that you're facing, and find a group that is supportive.
Well, that's why we have CLAW, the Kitsap
Yeah,
Literary Artists
exactly.
and Writers,
Yeah.
is specifically not to do any of the critique work on books, but to help all of us as writers to find that marketplace and how to get into various places. And even this show is a result of our meeting as CLAW and then expanding our market area, expanding our exposure, really.
Yeah, that's
So,
great.
considering that, what's coming up next? What do you have going on in the next few months?
Well, currently we're working on. My book has transitioned into now wellness workshops for changing the way we think. I'm actually getting ready to do a workshop in a couple of weeks on reframing and verbiage. What I've written and what I do on a day-to-day basis. I know you've seen my Facebook and Instagram, and as you see, I tend to write all over the spectrum. There's not a cynical focus. So currently we're working on workshops, and there's a couple books, because I know everybody wants to know how many books. I've heard that it's like having a baby. Right? When's your next one? Like, this was not out of hospital yet.
You're not gonna. You will not disappoint your audience if you come up with another baby.
Yes,
I know
that's what I've learned.
Well, and as part of that, the pictures and the photographs that you put into your postings,
Yes.
and then you have a random thought that you put in with it. Are those yours?
They are. They are.
Because if they are yours, then we don't have any issues with copyright, and you can publish that book with the pictures and why that inspired that particular thought to come out.
Oh yeah, no, I've had that as well. I share a lot. One of the things, I came with an acronym many years ago called Let Me, and it said for live every tiny moment exceptionally, and I did it in a blog post, and I take pictures and I talk to people. I'll talk to anybody, I guess I'll take time to talk to anybody about anything, and it's slowing down. And so we talked about earlier the point of my book. It's to slow it down, and I get people saying, share your photos. 'Cause, you take amazing photos. These are just photos from my cell phone.
It doesn't matter. They're still coming out pretty well.
And then I'm happy to have that eye, but my Instagram has one thing, my Twitter has another thing, my Facebook, there's something different on all of them. I don't know how I keep up with any of it personally.
Well, they can all be hooked together too.
They are, but I hate inundating the world with white noise.
Well, let's inundate the world.
Inundate
Okay,
them.
here's how we're going to do this. If an organization or a book club actually did want to get you to come and do some motivational speaking to them and to present your book, how do they get a hold of you?
How do they get a hold of me, April?
Well, the best place to go is our website. And I know
Okay.
you're going to post that
It's
information
going to be right
for
over
us.
the top of your head when we get this
Great,
Can I do that?
perfect.
I always wanted to be Vanna White.
SeanStackThoughts.com. You'll connect to the workshops, all of the social media pages, everything's there for
Where
you.
I'm going signings.
There you go.
I think we're actually going to be doing something with you guys here soon.
Yes, that will be over at Barnes & Noble on June 16th.
Yes, looking forward to getting with other. I love.
I think there are going to be 8 of us when we get the entire crew together.
Fantastic.
Okay,
7 authors and me.
correct. We'll go with that. Well, we writers all began with our first word and our first sentence, and you have given us how you got started.
Yes.
What advice do you have for any writer who is beginning and doesn't necessarily think they can write.
Yeah, I thought about this one pretty long and hard. Write your story. Write for you. There's always someone who tells you to write. This is how you should write this. This is how, she's an English teacher, and I told her when she edited my book, do not try to change my voice. I don't want to go English. Write for you. It doesn't matter if 20 people read it or one person reads it. When I write for me, it comes from me, and that means that story is mine, and I'm happy with it. When you write for other people, you lose you. When you write for the money, you write for the story, you write for it, you lose. So tell your story and write for you.
Well, I would like to thank you, Sean and April, for coming to do this. You have added to our literary world, and so this recording is another big step in that. And I look forward to continued endeavors with you.
Yes.
And I would like you to become a part of our Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers, and come to our meetings, and just share what you have. And as we continue to work together in the future, maybe you'll even host one of these shows with somebody you know.
I would love to.
We have enjoyed membership and our interviewing of favorite Northwest artists and authors. So, and I would like to also thank our viewers for tuning in to the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television and for viewing this Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers production. I also wish to thank the BCAT staff on cameras and in the director's chair. Our broadcasts are scheduled for Saturday evenings at 6 p.m. on Wave Cable Channel 3 and Comcast Channel 12. But if you don't live in this area, you can also stream them on the BCAT website at bkat.org at 6 p.m. Daylight Savings Time. And if you'll please keep in touch with our Facebook pages and any of the authors' pages that are here, you can discover where you can meet these local authors and artists. And I hope everyone has a pleasant evening and a productive and fascinating week. And until next Saturday, I am Peter Stockwell with Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers in conjunction with the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television. Good night.